Reframing Mindset podcast, where I clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity, practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Okay, welcome back to Frame Mindset Podcast. My name is Carl Smith Brooks, and this episode is going to be, you know, career as a luxury. I talk about like episode, and this episode about driving as a skill before luxury. Because that's one of the things where to get your dream car is going to take you to work to get it. And cars are not cheap. Cars are not cheap. Cars are not cheap. And it's like you have to work hard to get it. But the thing about it is that what I realized, boom, I got my license. But then you have to work to get the car and the time to between you get the license and then you get enough money to purchase your first car and then do it legit. That that time that time you actually somewhat may actually lose the skill to drive. But so going through this refresher driving course and stuff, what I realized was that and going to this new role of driving, not, having going not feeling 100% there, but actually just saying, what, I'm just going to just do it just because eventually I have to go on the road. One thing I realized is that driving as a skill is more is the better way to do it before driving as a luxury. Where women see a person in a private car going around driving around and stuff. If you're not in the position to do that, if you're not going for a probably where you can actually do that. Driving as a skill is a great start where when you're under the pressure to follow the rules. You don't want to mess up. You're not on your own money, you're on the company's money. When you mess up on all those stuff, the pressure of actually trying to drive under not your rules will force you to actually want to obey the rules, and then boom, naturally obeying the rules naturally obeying the rules driving and all those stuff will just make it become muscle memory. And then when it become muscle memory now, when you're finally able to boom purchase your first car because you actually driven so much and to work and all those stuff, that become muscle memory to you and you naturally drive better on the road. So boom, by the time you actually on the road, you're a very competent driver. You're a very competent driver because you actually do so much driven in a condition that under a condition where boom, if you mess up, you're actually in a high stake environment. And of course the road is a high stake environment, police and all those stuff. But as I said, boom, the good thing is that it's the time you if you're not in a position where you can't afford a car or stuff like that, just you going through the process to get the license. And next best option would just be when you go through get the license of actually go for a job that actually does driving or so. Because what I realize is that this job that I actually do before the driving, so or at least I didn't even start it yet. And thing about it that even it's not like I'm gonna do it for driving all day because that in itself is the next thing as well. Driving is one thing, driving for a couple of minutes, but driving for 8 hours or so a day. So that is something else in itself. So it's like I said, there are levels to it as well. But the thing about it is that yeah, what I was saying before is that before I at this stage, what I was doing was basically a lot of heavy lifting, lot of heavy lifting, and dr- to upgrade to the driver would be somewhat of an ease, coming um very much at ease, but more responsibility, more risk and stuff. But if I nail it, that would be a new level of luxury for me, bro. And then transition into the road will just be more seamless. So that's one of those things where upgrading to a new level is scary because, and the thing about it is that in the school setting and university setting, that's one of the good thing about it is that boom, they actually well in the university is kind of is less of that, and I also you want to go higher is less. But is you actually get some cushion to actually what I realize is that each level is I think is that's what going to happen. It does both. So you're actually getting cushion into the new level. But in the working world, you're basically be thrown into the level, bro. That's the thing about it. You're just getting thrown into it's like they come in and they expect you that you and it makes sense because what happens is that when you're going through the training, you learn about the company history and you learn about this company has been around for years and stuff, years upon years. So when they come in, it's like you're just basically a cog now in this new machine, and you're just basically just going to fit in and stuff. So it's like it's such a built-in machine that it just basically just put you in and spit you up. So that's one of the thing where you can't. Why next thing is that you can't really also too rely on a company because what happens is that so when you learn about the company history, you realize that the company has been around for a long time, and it builds structures and all those things. So you come in new and you feel like, bro, yeah, this is important first. And that's the thing as well. They go through training LP and it prop you up. But when you actually go into the company, you realize that, bro, you just this one person, this in that of history of persons that actually been here. And you're just a new person coming to maybe do some upgrade to the work to make it better and all those stuff. But realizing that most company has been around a long time. So it's like they come in and expect certain level of competence from you and all those things. So with that level of expectation, yes, it's scary to actually go to that new level in the working world because it just basically come in and expect you to actually know this stuff. But the thing about the next thing is that you have to actually just take the plunge, bro. You actually just take the plunge because the thing about it is that the worst thing you can do is actually try and they basically just say, no, you're a terrible driver, get up. But at least when you actually do it, just you going through that process and doing it the first time on your own actually give you the information to know that okay, yes, I'm a terrible driver. But you actually get over the scare of the rejection and all those stuff. Basically you don't get used to it. And you'll be like eventually that's how it goes. So it's just that one of those things where you have to just basically just take the plunge. Just take the plunge to reach that new level. And but that's the main thing from this episode where boom, driving as a skill is talk about career as a luxury. So the next thing I would mention is my my basic primitive thoughts and just a random thought on the climate. Talk about cars because that's the thing. You want to upgrade to a car and you can't afford a dream car. But the reality is that cars are you say cars and planes and everything like this are bad for the climate. So why per se, you do science and all those stuff. Why you want to upgrade to a car and all these things? And it's like it was one of those weird things as well. But the thing about it is that why I'm talking about career as a luxury and driving as a skill before a luxury is that one of my the theory would be is basically everybody just upgrade to driving. Like it does become a natural natural thing where boom, driving becomes the norm. or the ability to drive just becomes the norm. Just like eventually, boom, having a university degree becomes a norm, and that becomes a standard. That becomes a standard. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that boom, all of a sudden get bright. It's just that happiness at certain level of the the climate theory. I guess I would this another episode. I guess eventually I would do it, but basically that boom once everything is upgraded to another level, the issues of a certain level just basically it makes sense to fast forward than to try to go back. So in a certain climate thing will be like, oh my god, just stop using car or accelerate yourself to the electric car also. But economic wise it costs money. These things are not free. And then one thing I realize is that roads are would everybody wants to update to a car, want better roads and all those stuff. But I think as well, roads are bad for the climate as well because those roads would be once dirt and all those stuff that create nice trees and all these things. But now that is now pavement. So that it is but the thing was that it's not it doesn't make sense for you to go back to the dirt. The roads are actually great investment for the future, just like home. Home, a home, a home would be somewhat um depending. Uh, could be, if you think about it like forestation, plant more trees. That would save climate change. Building a home would be somewhat bad for the climate because what happens is that they have to cut down trees, create land space, and build a home. But imagine a world without home. When the rain and thunder come, imagine those times. Imagine those times before the rain and all this, before the homes and fancy homes were built. You don't want that. So it's just that the thing about it that carries a luxury is that you boom, you want to upgrade, but at the same time, you don't want to upgrade too much. You want to keep the balance. And but so that's the first step. But the next step is to find the better way. So it's just that so essentially the climate thing would be just basically you can't yeah, you move forward because the best way is out there. It's just that we can't afford it yet, and it's not a luxury. That's the next thing again. Career is a luxury. The best way is out there, but it's not a luxury as yet. But the best thing we can do is just fast forward the levels. Boom, everybody driving becomes a norm. So what happens is that becomes the new norm. Then the next thing is now everybody getting a car becomes easier and the norm now. That's the new norm. Then the next thing you know, getting the right car, the most climate um car and all those stuff. That's what Tesla and those stuff are doing now. The best, somewhat climate best car. But that's the thing. If all those stuff are good in theory, but if you can't afford it, it doesn't make any sense. But that doesn't mean you should have worked for it. You never know. If you're here, imagine you're here for 70 years and you say, you know what, I'll never get it. Or you be the person, I have 70 years. Maybe I'll get it. The person who tries it, who actually say, you know what, I can get it maybe within the 70 years. Then, I'll reach forward than the person that basically say, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time to try to get it. So it's just one of those things where you just be like, yeah, let's try it, just try to go up the levels. First time it's going to take some skills to learn and all those stuff, but eventually it becomes a luxury. And just be like, look at the podcast now, just basically take some time, and then eventually now it's just a luxury. Somewhat a luxury, somewhat. You still have some work because there's still changes and all those stuff. Well, that's what you're just basically doing. So that's basically it for this episode. And thanks for listening. And look forward for the next episode. Mhm.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/cssb/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page, Reframing Mindset Podcast, or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.